Hey guys, so as you know, I've been playing through the Final Fantasy series. Um, we're a few games in at this point, but one of the things I've always wanted to do with these games is kind of like provide some kind of like post-mortem retrospective on how I felt about the game, and maybe how it compared to like other games. And I haven't done one of these yet, so it's a little late for this one. It's been a while since I played the first game at this point. Um, but I just wanted to provide some basic insight on how I felt about the experience from someone who's never played any of these games before. So in the background, I just put on some random kind of sped up footage, and I just want to like blab a little bit about, as you know, like to do, blab a little bit about how I felt about, in this case, the first game, Final Fantasy One, which again I've never played before. This is from 1989, I think, or 1988, or something like that. Either way, game's older than me. So now I obviously played the remastered versions. They're a little bit nicer, higher resolution and all that. Um, and For the most part, um, with one, I actually kind of enjoyed the game. I was actually every time a Friday would roll around, I was kind of excited to play it. So, despite it being a really old game, it kind of stands up a little bit. The thing about one is the systems are all very simple. It's kind of like basic turn-based combat, basic quests, basic run around the world, slay monsters, and I didn't really expect too much more than that. But somehow the formula was like still kind of nice. I still enjoyed most of my time with one. And at this point, I know a little bit about the games that come after, but we're going to assume that I haven't played those yet. And we're just going to stick to not comparing it to any later games. We'll do that when we do the retrospectives for those games. But of course, the game is very sandboxy. You can kind of go over mostly anywhere. Now you're restricted a little bit by like which travel methods you seem to have unlocked. And sometimes it is hard to know where to go. Like that's probably one of the biggest complaints I probably had about one is like it's hard to know where to go or what to do. And eventually you kind of just end up talking to enough people that you're like, oh, I'll try going in this direction, and then you sort of figure something out. So I didn't use any walkthroughs for this, and still I kind of finished the game in a reasonable amount of time. So despite the fact that like story progression was like frustrating, and the story was like bare bones, like save the day kind of story. Um, we kind of got through it modern day without having to use any weird walkthroughs. There's no like niche necessarily things you had to do as sometimes exist in old games. I did like that you had like a stable party, a picture party. You could even have different kinds of parties. Like in my playthrough, I had basically like three wizards and a monk, and I didn't use the warrior at all, which was maybe a mistake. At some point, you start finding warrior items and you have no one to equip them to. So in some ways, it wasn't optimal, but it worked fine. The game wasn't particularly challenging, though. Ultimately, eventually you get to a point where there's a button you can press, the auto battle, and I was just even in like encounters that were probably roughly my party's level, I was still hitting auto battle most of the time, because you collect some items that can heal without using mana, do damage without using mana. As you see, things get obliterated pretty quickly eventually. So while the game had like a nice sense of progression, you had the same characters, those characters leveled up, they got new skills, you collected items for them. There was no big major evolutions in the characters' arcs, but you know, they had a nice progression, but the gameplay wasn't particularly difficult. It was kind of almost like if you think of like class of World of Warcraft, the actual gameplay is not that hard. The hardest part is getting your characters high enough level to do a thing or do an encounter. So in that respect, like not much challenge to it, but at the same time, the progression was satisfying. Um, so basic RPG progression. Again, we're talking about a game that probably was so early on that it didn't have a lot of games to borrow from, so it kind of innovated, and some of these mechanics are probably innovative at the time. Simple systems. Um, the bosses were mostly like punching bags, meat sacks. Sometimes they had some RNG kind of weird spells going on, but almost no real like tricks or mechanics to worry about. You kind of just like beat on the guy until he died. And that's kind of like maybe what you expect. But that being said, the formula was still simple enough that I enjoyed this game, despite like it really being like bare bones, like a bare bones, you know, turn-based RPG experience. Um, there's plenty to expand upon here. So like in future games, if they just kind of expanded on this formula, that would probably be fine. And I think there's probably even modern pixel games that try to do stuff like this, right? But ultimately, like, I wasn't expecting much. I didn't get much, but the game was still fun. I still enjoyed playing it. There was like no period, I think, like, except for like maybe trying to figure out where the hell I was supposed to go, and I was running around the continent with like a ship trying to find which city had a guy that told me what the hell to do. That was probably the only frustrating bit. There's no like weird roadblocks with bosses or anything like that. So overall, it wasn't bad. It was like, I don't know if I want to give this a number grade. Maybe we'll start a tier list going forward, like how I feel about each game compared to each other. But like in the absence of like other games to compare it to in the same series at this point, like this is like a solid like B for me. Like it's like a B game. It's like I enjoyed the game. I'm glad I played it. But I didn't do anything fun, not fun. Didn't do anything fantastical, super interesting. It was a bare bones kind of thing, but done well. Like, especially when you consider the time period, done pretty well. So that's my little blurb, my little retrospective on my, we'll say, I think it was like 12 or 13 hours in Final Fantasy 1. We'll do 2 next. I've already completed 2. 2 is uploaded. VODs live on the channel already. So we will also do a retro of 2 probably next weekend. And then I'll get to cutting up 3, and then we'll do retrospective of 3. Weekend after, we'll try to do something like that, and then we'll soldier on, because we're playing. If you're here with me in real time, we're playing 4 live right now. We're a little ways into 4. And I have strong feelings going forward. So hopefully it'll be fun to hear my perspective on some of the stuff. But like even like here, like this, our friend Tiamat that we're fighting right now, like, he's kind of just a flesh sack dragon that, beats you up. And then you beat him up and he dies, So nothing too special, nothing, too insanely complex, but basic, nice formula. I enjoyed the game. I'll see you when we talk about 2. Thanks for listening.